In this podcast, I'm going to be talking about the angles of cutting edges, specifically chisels and maybe one or two saws. And these are just observations that I've come across, or that I've observed rather, obviously. Before I go ahead with the podcast, I just want to announce that I am going to be releasing a newsletter. So this is going to be a bit of a skim through newsletter, if that makes sense. So I just want it to be content rich, nice, easy, digestible sections, and it's not going to take you forever to read it. So if you are interested in this, I am going to be leaving a link in the description of this video. There's going to be links kicking about everywhere on my social media and whatever else. So I haven't actually released a post yet or a newsletter yet. So the first newsletter is most likely going to go out this Wednesday or a week on Wednesday. I haven't quite made my mind up yet, but it's going to be somewhere around that time. So if you want to get the very first edition of the newsletter, the Sawdust newsletter, I thought was quite apt for a woodworking newsletter. So if you want the newsletter, click the link, pop your email in, and you'll start getting weekly newsletters from yourself. So the angles of cutting edges, more specifically chisels, because today's podcast was brought about by the observation with these two chisels. So for anyone that's listening, I do have me newly bought Japanese chisels. Well, they're not new, these are antique, but they're new to me. Very nice chisels, love the handle, love everything about them. Apart from one thing, and that is that they are, how to put this, I can't say fragile, although I have used that word previously, but I will say you do have to be careful with them, shall we say. So I thought to myself, what's the point in having them if I've got to be so careful with them? And I've got these other chisels, and these were the ones from Lidl that Paul Sellers used to recommend. I don't actually believe that they're still available. I think they used to come out like once a year at Lidl and Aldi, and Paul Sellers recommended them, and I bought them. I did have another set of them, but unfortunately they're with an ex-girlfriend a long time ago, so I ain't getting those back, which is a shame, because these are really good chisels, and I would like to have a backup set of them. But never mind, there is other chisels I can get. So the issue I had was that I've got these Japanese chisels, lovely chisels, get them nice and sharp, razor sharp, really like that about them, you know, slicing through end grain like nothing, really good. But they're very delicate, if that is the right word to use. Where these guys, I think these cost us about $8.99 at the time. Honestly, mind blown. $8.99. It's the best $8.99 I've ever spent. And these guys, honestly, I just use and abuse these. You know, I can. You know, one day I might be pairing with them. The next time I use them, I could be cutting mortises, and it's not an issue. They will handle it. I've never had a bend in them, and I've never ever had any damage to the edge. So I was kind of torn a little bit, because I was thinking to myself, I've just paid, I think it was about £200 for these antique Japanese chisels. I thought, I've just paid £200 for these, and I paid $8.99 for these that I got out of Lidl, and the ones I got from Lidl, they kind of walk all over, these Japanese ones. You know, as I said, the multi-purpose. Maybe it's just me being a little bit heavy-handed, you know, and sometimes I can be a little bit heavy-handed. But the way I look at it is if I've got, you know, these types of chisels, I should be able to use them and not fear breaking them. So I was kind of wondering what the deal was, you know, because Japanese chisels, obviously for anyone that doesn't know, in the plain blades as well, like, again, someone correct us, because I don't think I'm 100% right. I'll leave a comment and correct us, please. But I do think that the steel is actually laminated. So at the very bottom, you've got a hardened steel. Again, I forget the name of the steel. Is it like a blue? They'll call it like a blue paper steel, something like that. Again, someone leave a comment and let everybody know. But I do believe that laminated. So basically, the idea behind it is that the very bottom, the cutting edge, is a lot tougher, and the other section of the chisel or the cutting edge, whether it be a plane or a chisel, is a lot softer. So when you're actually sharpening these on a stone or whatever, they're supposed to, you know, sharpen a little bit quicker, rather than to have all that tough, you know, hard steel all the way through it. So yeah, in theory it makes a lot of sense. So one of the things with the Japanese chisels is that, primarily from the reading I've done in the YouTube videos I've watched, in a little bit of experimenting, is that basically with the Japanese chisel, it has one angle, you know, like these aren't 25 degrees. I'm not sure what these are. They're close to 25 degrees, but they're not 25 degrees. So this has only got one angle on it. It hasn't got a secondary angle on it. And I believe that a secondary angle is used occasionally, but the secondary angle is very, very acute. I'm talking maybe like 1 degree, something like that. So I've read. And basically all this is for is so that the chisel can be sharpened quickly. So when you're using just a single angle, like I have been doing with these chisels, so sharp, so sharp. And I'll go out on a limb here and I'll say that when I sharpen with a single angle with these Japanese chisels, that they're sharper than me Western style chisels, the ones from Aldi or Lidl, wherever I got them from, one of the two. And the difference being is that the way I sharpen my Western style chisels is that they have a convex on them. So I don't have two angles on them like a lot of people will use Western chisels, sharpen Western chisels. They'll maybe go 25 degrees and then 30 degrees on the secondary bevel. So I don't do that. I quite like just to have one continuous convex, and for me it's worked beautifully. But as I said, when I got these chisels, I sharpened them up with a single angle. I thought, wow, these are a lot sharper. So I do personally, and again, I've got no scientific like data or anything to back myself up, or any scientific tests, other than these feel sharper. And these are, don't get us wrong, the convex, it still will cut hairs off your arm, not a problem. So I can get these quite sharp, but these just feel sharper to me. Now, what I did do, I did actually grind down, well not grind, but I used the diamond plates, and I took me 8mm Western style chisel, and I took that to a 25-degree angle or thereabouts. I didn't measure it, but it's thereabouts. And it is a single angle of 25 degrees. And I did notice straight away that it seems to be a lot sharper. Now again, I've got nothing to back this up, and it could be a bit of a placebo effect going on with my mind. So another interesting thing I found with the 8mm chisel is that when I did take it down and I thought, wow, this is a lot sharper, or it's sharper, not a lot sharper, but it is sharper, it feels sharper, is that I damaged it quite easily. And as soon as I damaged it, bearing in mind I've never ever damaged any of these chisels, and as I said earlier, I've used and abused these, using them for mortises and everything. Never had an issue. So I takes that down to a 25-degree single angle, and I damaged it straight away. So obviously, you know, the apple dropped, or the ball dropped, and I thought, well, that's the problem. So there is a difference with the way that you sharpen, the angles that you use, so on and so forth. It will affect how strong these edges are. As soon as I damaged that, everything just fell into place, and I realised it's because of the acute angle. So maybe I can get a picture up of, like, maybe comparing these two. But basically, with the Japanese chisels being at 25 degrees, by the time you get to the edge, there's not a lot of meat at the edge, and it makes sense, as I said, when I sharpened it to 25 degrees and then I damaged it at 25 degrees, the Western style chisel, it made sense that because it's so thin at the edge, you are going to get a better cutting edge because it's thinner and there's going to be less resistance, but also because it's thinner, it's going to be easier to damage. Now, again, it kind of, you know, it made a lot of sense, because it's the same with a lot of things. If you have, let's just say we have a board of oak, and we put a bevel on it. Just, I don't know, mate. Let's just say we put a 70-degree bevel on the edge of, you know, a board. So the very corner, it would be sharp. In fact, it would be sharp enough to cut your skin, your finger, and I've done it, unfortunately. So it would still be pretty resistant to damage, if that makes sense. So if we took that angle down to 45 degrees, you've got more of an edge, and again, that edge would cut your skin. It would be sharp, but it would be more fragile, and, you know, it would be quite easy to damage if you put that on its edge. I don't know, and maybe you pulled it along your workbench, you might actually splinter some of the edge of that off. Now, if we took that down to, I don't know, maybe 30 degrees or 25 degrees, 20 degrees, you know, it's quite an acute angle for the edge of a piece of wood, and I don't really think, you know, in furniture making there's any cause for it. But just for argument's sake, let's say we did do that. Again, the edge would be quite sharp enough to, you know, to cut your skin. But it's same again. I've got no doubt, you know, I could take maybe this hammer that I'm holding, this is only like a little thin handle, and I could gently, you know, tap the edge of that, and it would just damage so easily. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across, is that the observation that I've made is basically, if I want to do some mortise and so on and so forth, it's going to be better to have a convex is that right? Convex, concave, a convex kind of edge on my chisel, because it's going to give it more strength. So again, it kind of makes sense, because let's see if I can demonstrate with this piece of sandpaper here. So if we've got maybe like a 25-degree angle here, so you should be able to see this on the camera. So there's the angle. So you can see there's not a lot of meat at the cutting edge, or where the cutting edge would be. So that's obviously is going to be problematic for, you know, being heavy-handed, and you are going to damage it. But if we put a concave on it, you can see immediately that there's more meat there, and even by looking at it, to me anyway, it just looks stronger. There's more meat, whereas you've got that 25 degrees, and then we'll put the concave on it. See the difference? Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see the difference. So there's a convex, and then you've got the, let's just say, the 25-degree angle. You know, there is a difference. So it is going to be more beneficial, I think, for at least for myself, and I am fortunate enough to have 2 sets of chisels, although I could do with a few more chisels. We all could do with a few more tools, couldn't we? Not that we need them some of the time, but I am fortunate enough to have the 2 sets of chisels. So I think personally for me, is that I am going to have to get used to using the Japanese chisels in a fashion where I'm going to have to be a bit more gentle with them, just because of the sharpening, or all the angle that they are sharpened. Now, I haven't done a great deal of research into this, but to my knowledge, Japanese chisels, as I said earlier, only sharpened to a single degree, which is 25, I believe, and occasionally they will put a secondary bevel on, which is a differential of, I think it's like 1 degree, and again, that's just to sharpen them quickly. But it would be interesting to find out, and again, if anyone knows, I would appreciate it if someone would leave a comment. As I said, I haven't done any research on this, but it would be interesting to know if any Japanese chisels are actually sharpened in a convex way, to give them extra strength. I think obviously this would take away from the sharpness of them, you know, especially when you're paring down with the end grain. And I think that's another good example. When you see a lot of end grain, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, if you're on social media, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, you will most likely come across a video and someone got usually a Japanese chisel, and they are paring the end grain, and it's just effortless, it's beautiful, you know. And I do think now, knowing what I know and the observations that I've made, I do think it is just because of the single angle. I just do think it is that little bit more sharper. Obviously, you do have to be able to sharpen. You can't, you know, you can't have a Japanese chisel or a Western chisel not being able to sharpen and then expect them to cut good. It's just not going to happen. But definitely the observation I've made is that the angle does make a difference, and obviously the way you're sharpening it makes a difference. Obviously, if you're doing a single angle, I think that's going to be the weakest. If you're doing 2 bevels, you know, maybe your 25 and your 30 degree, somewhere about there, that's going to be, you know, kind of in the middle. And then I think for sheer strength, but you're also getting a decent sharpness as well. You know, I kind of take that away from this method. It will cut hairs from your arms really easy. So for you know, the best strength you can get for the edge is obviously going to be a convex. So personally for me, moving forward in the future, maybe for the more delicate stuff, you know, maybe when I'm cutting complex joints, you know, and I've got pairing to do and whatever else, I am going to be using the Japanese chisels because I do find them sharper because of the single angle. It would be interesting to actually get some confirmation on that, you know, whether it is a placebo effect. Again, if anyone's got any links or anything like that, pop it in the comments, you know, for myself and for other people that may be interested to see if there is, you know, some science behind that. Would be good to see. There probably is, I just probably haven't come across it. Obviously, I haven't really done a lot of research per se into these. I've looked into the angles a little bit, but not a great deal. So again, if anyone's got that information, that would be great. So that's it for this one, guys. Again, don't forget, if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, there will be a link in the description. And until the next time, I shall see and speak to you guys later.